We all are only 1 degree removed from knowing someone who is being impacted by workplace violence or some form of online exploitation. This issue filters into employee wellness, impacting engagement at work. Let's bridge this gap by bringing awareness and education to these pressing issues and shield the vulnerable. Welcome, everybody. This is the Shield the Vulnerable podcast. I've got an amazing guest here today, another police officer of 10 years, R.C. Hughes. But more importantly, R.C., you are the founder of the Hughes Initiative. And you're the creator of something really cool that we're going to dive into today, and that's called the E.A.R model. You're really passionate about enhancing emotional intelligence and team dynamics within policing. And you're really passionate about what you do. I know that you're a huge researcher on the history of policing, a huge researcher of case law, and you use this now to teach others and to draw upon your experiences. So welcome and thank you for being here as a guest today with us.
Thank you for having me, Dave. Obviously, I'm very, very excited and very happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good conversation. I know based off of our first one that we ever had together. So, RC, you developed the E.A.R model, which is
Mhm.
ego, arrogance, and rage. And we see a huge disconnect between citizen interactions with police officers. And when we talked first before, we agreed that there's one major tied-in component, and that's emotion. Both emotion from the police officer and emotion from the citizen. And you and I, we talked about these videos that we see. I mean, they're all the time. They're posted on YouTube, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
People either maybe trying to goat police officers into, certain situations, or we just see situations gone completely terrible. And, you can flip a coin as to say, who's at fault here or who didn't have the emotional intelligence? How did this get from here to here so fast? Um, let's talk about that, right? You developed ego, arrogance, and rage, this model. So what are you seeing? Tell us?
You know what? The background of the ear model, it really came from me watching those videos of police officers just walking into negative situations that are completely avoidable.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to look into, why this happened. And there's data and stats on different types of interactions. But what I learned was that it's an internal thing, right? At some point in time, an American citizen or police officer says something that triggers another person. And the question became, why is that triggering? And as I did more research, you have to really dive into the history of a person. It's almost like psychology to a certain degree. It's almost like going to a therapist. We have to go backwards in order for you as a person to move forward. So with the
We
year
have
model,
to go. We have to go backwards as a person in order to move forward.
yes, uh,
Explain.
a lot of what triggers us as individuals is past trauma, things
Mm-hmm.
that we've experienced in the past that we never addressed, either because we didn't know how or we weren't allowed to. I mean, you think about the average American and how they grew up. Very few people grew up with an abundance of money.
Mm-hmm.
And people from my community, especially, have grown up in broken homes, grown up in poor areas. That's trauma.
Yeah.
Whether people acknowledge it or want to acknowledge it or not, that's trauma. It's traumatic and it has an effect on you to not be able to have some of the basic things that you see other people have. And so when you bring all of that into law enforcement, and we both know how challenging a career this is, it lends
Yeah.
itself to help you build an ego. When we talk about building an ego, I like to break it down into two sections. The first one is the false reality we create for ourselves, and our brain does it to keep us from actually going insane because of some of the trauma that we've experienced that's unaddressed. And the other part of it is to build a wall in front of us to protect us from future pain because of past pain that we have experienced.
Okay. So when we're talking about trauma, so we're kind of all wearing like trauma on our sleeve. Like it's out
Mhm.
there whether we talk about it or not. And you reference, like how, maybe you grew up. So, but we also face trauma on the job. And that comes out, right? So when you're saying from that emotional intelligence standpoint, when something just goes completely awry, doesn't go the way it should. Is that from trauma from prior police experience? Is that from trauma within that career? Or is it a combination of both?
That's the challenge because, like as you just referenced, this job brings its own set of trauma with
Mm-hmm.
along with that personal trauma. So it's a combination of both. I like to also include the big four negative coping mechanisms that we use to kind of deal with the stress that we face as police officers, while also saying fighting a similar type of stress in our personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional intelligence is so key to law enforcement because you really have to have your mind right. You have to be level-headed every day when you come to work.
There's a lot of self-control that
There,
comes
ha-
into
there
play there.
there has to be a high level of self-control from the individual because you're going to be exposed to other people's trauma.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few occupations that are similar to us in that way, but as law enforcement, you typically are not meeting people on their best day. And
Right.
we've heard that before. You're usually dealing with people at one of their lowest points, and we're emotional sponges. It's
Mm-hmm.
impossible to turn it off completely, to walk away from situations and not feel something.
Yeah.
You just keep pouring into a bucket essentially. You keep pouring into a bucket and then
Yeah. And it doesn't end at the shift.
no, oh no, oh no, oh no, no. That's where
Right.
the big four negative coping mechanisms come in, which I list as alcohol, drugs, promiscuous sex, pornography, and gambling. The things we do to take our minds away from the reality of who we are as people, what we're dealing with, what the occupation is, what it brings, and what we've been exposed to that day, that week, that month, that year, both inside and outside of our police stations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's funny, when you talk about this, I was watching another podcast. It was on the Sean Ryan show. I don't know if you follow him or not. Great, great podcaster, very military focused, but he was interviewing a police officer who worked in guns and gangs. And this guy says, he's like, from military, if you're, you go, you deploy, you come back, right? You're gone overseas. When you come home, you're home. You don't have to worry about when you go into the grocery store with your, with your kids or into the restaurant or into Walmart or into some other place about bumping into somebody that you just arrested
Right.
on, drug charges, gang charges, whatever gun charges that he was talking about. And he's like, I have to live with that every day in my community. And
Hmm.
he's like, and that adds to the trauma, that adds to the fear, that adds to that other heightened layer of hypervigilance that I have to experience because I can't shut this off when the
Right.
shift is done. I still live in my community. I'm still here with my family. Um,
That that's one of the biggest challenges is that I try to impart on new police officers to try to their best to avoid is being a police officer 24 hours a day.
yeah.
It's so very challenging, especially when you live in the neighborhood that you police in, because you're going to arrest people naturally that are around you. And
Hmm.
what ends up happening is you're a police officer all the time and it bleeds over into your family life who they don't necessarily need a police officer at home. They need mom or they need dad, the person that's not on duty, that's not in the uniform. Another part of what I teach, we talk about the three different types of conversations you can have with people, whether that be a logical, an emotional, or an identity conversation. Most
Hmm.
conversations at homes don't center around logical conversations, but as police officers,
Right.
that's typically what we offer to people is a logical solution to a problem. That's also a reason why we see situations go awry at times because conversations are mismatched.
Okay. Talk about that. Give me an
Through
example.
studies and through, okay, so a perfect example, because I'm using this now. A logical conversation, a logical statement from a police officer would be the reason I pulled you over is because the speed limit is 55, you're doing 70 miles an hour. A
Hmm.
mismatch of that would be a person saying, you only pulled me over because of what I'm driving. Those two right there are mismatched because the police officers bring in logic and the citizens bring in emotion.
How
And
many citizens are they bringing emotion, or how many think I'm going to push the boundaries here and I'm going to make a statement? I'm going to try to get this person to engage in another completely other conversation. It's all recorded. I got my camera going. They're wearing their body cam, right? How many people do it as a purposefully to see what they can trigger?
This is why I teach police officers to understand that a lot of times when you interact with people, they don't want a solution. What they want is an opportunity to be heard.
Hmm.
And I won't say that it's easy to defeat a situation like that, but if you study and you understand the type of conversation that you're having, it's much easier to connect with a person in that way. For us as police officers, you use the term de-escalation, right?
Hmm.
Um, but for us, de-escalation only works if the other party is willing to participate.
Yep.
We've all been in situations where we've tried to de-escalate and that person wasn't willing. But to get back to your question, how many people attempt to try to push a police officer? I think it happens more now than ever. And again, this is why I created the E.A.R model, because I see police officers not recognize that that's the situation they're in and they walk right into it.
Yep. Yep. So what do you teach them to be able to check their ego at the door, to go into this, keep control of their emotions, right? We're human. We
Mhm.
all know that it can happen, right? And
Right.
it's almost like you have to look at somebody like, I'm not going to take the bait. You're not going to get me to go there.
It's so when you teach a person how an ego is formed and why, inherently you're teaching them to look in the mirror and understand that they're not perfect.
Hmm.
And they take that out onto patrol with them and they give people just a little bit more grace, have a little bit more patience. Also, when you teach them about arrogance and what it looks like,
Hmm.
then you would pray that people would be able to recognize it in themselves. And again, it comes back to grace and humility in that, okay, I'm not perfect. I have work to do. I'm interacting with people who also have work to do. I'm interacting with people who either from lived experience or something they've seen online feel a certain way about law enforcement. And now we're having a conversation and they want to see if what they found online was true. And it's our jobs, and really, I do believe this, it's our jobs to almost prove that it's not, right? I
Right.
don't know what you saw online, but I'm not that type of police officer. So let's transition this conversation to something a little bit more of a professional tone, more reasonable as opposed to dealing with extremes. We see police officers, and it's normal. Police officers get offended by what citizens say because the citizens are trying to attach an identity to a police officer that they don't subscribe to. When
Hmm.
a person calls a police officer racist, they know nothing about this stranger that they're interacting with. This stranger police officer could have be married to someone of ethnic minority. So when a white police officer pulls someone over and they say, "You pulled me over because I'm black," that's offensive. That really is offensive. As police officers, we have to understand that we're going to get that, especially in today's world, and we must be able to navigate those waters.
Well, I think you told me when we first met that you've experienced that as a
Yeah.
black male police officer, that you've had those interactions, right?
Yes. I tell people, listen, I've been a police officer for 10 years, but I've been black for 40. It really, just understanding that people are going to try to attempt that because that's easy, a verbal fodder. That's an easy way to go for them to try to shift the narrative and control the situation, which is why
Hmm.
when I teach de-escalation, it is about controlling the narrative, but in a way that you will be perceived as going about things the right way, being the professional, which is what we ultimately must get in. We must get into that. I can't tell you how many times people have said, you're Uncle Tom, or you only pulled me over because I'm black. You don't know what it's like to be black. And then we have a conversation about my upbringing and the challenges I went through and the decisions that I had to make and the people I had to cut off to get to where I am now. And they're like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, I guess I was wrong. Yeah, that's okay though. I don't take it personal. This is business and I know how to handle myself. That's what I try to give police officers, regardless of what race they are.
Yeah. So how did you get into coming up with the year model? How was Hughes Initiative like? How did this begin? you started into the career, was it through personal? Was it something happened where you're like, okay, I need to help?
I myself, when I got into law enforcement, had a very tumultuous first 3 years of my career. I mean, it couldn't have gone any worse from a personal standpoint. Professionally, I
Hmm.
was doing well. I was arresting people. I was very proactive as far as, firearms and narcotics and traffic enforcement. But on a personal level, it was eating me alive because I was going through an identity crisis. I
Yeah.
had never, when you come into law enforcement, there's a way that a lot of people think and talk about groups of people and ideas. And sometimes people talk in absolutes, and I am not that kind of person. So, in struggling to assimilate with the group, in a sense, personally, it was taking an effect on me. Being exposed to the level of poverty and violence and sucking up the trauma and emotions from other people because I'm an emotional person. I love people. That's part of the reason why I do this.
Hmm.
Having to deal with that sent me down the road to some of the negative coping mechanisms. And it was 3 years in where I kind of hit rock bottom, where, it was like the Lord was looking down on me like, okay, have you had enough? Right? Is it been enough for you? And that's when I started to climb out of that hole. And I did that through research and education on how to better myself. And then one night, I remember very vividly, I was laying in bed and I just went on a deep dive of how many police officers were arrested per year and what they were arrested for. And I came away
Hmm.
thinking, these are regular everyday people that are getting arrested for the same things that other regular everyday people are getting arrested for. How can I help change that? How can I help give people information from what I've experienced to make them better or to help them make more educated decisions? This is how the Hughes Initiative gets created, but also with the intention to educate the public as well. Because it's very easy to be a talking head or to play to one side. And we see this all the time where people are pro law enforcement and they only speak negatively about the American public or the Canadian public or any public to be honest. They only speak negative about them and they make excuses for law enforcement and then, or there's
Hmm.
the other side of society that uh, wants to hold law enforcement more accountable than we hold each other. And so this is
Right.
why the Hughes Initiative is a two-pronged attack, as in a sense, where I spend a lot of time educating the public, but I spend just as much time educating law enforcement on how to have civility on contact, is how I like to call it.
That's awesome. That is the civility on contact. I love that
Yes,
because you have to, everything has to have a humanized approach to it,
it
right?
does.
And the way in which, and I've watched police officers come in, like you've probably been a part of those situations where, two or three of you are on a call, everything's going smoothly, everything's ironed out, and then one late joiner comes in and can just blow the whole thing up way more than it ever need to be and get it like going again. And there's
Absolutely.
no need for that.
So when I teach, I also teach a lot of times we as people, we struggle with being seen without having to perform.
Hmm.
And a lot of that comes from, some childhood where the admiration of your family, your mother, your father, your grandparents, the people around you was based on your ability to perform in some way, whether that be academically, athletically, in the house, being of service to people. And then we bring it into law enforcement. And now when we come on to a scene, those kind of people that you just referenced, they are comfortable with the silence of not being recognized as being there. So
Hmm.
they come in and they want to put in their 2 cents, even though you and the other people have done all the work to get this to a very human level with a level of not necessarily appreciation, but a level of respectability between the police officer and the people. And here they come with their conversation, with their rhetoric that is demeaning, that can be racially motivated, degrading, all of these things, just so they can be seen.
Yep. Yep. 100%. So with that, how are you finding the overall response going from fellow police officers with training? Are there some that are asking for this training? Like, are they craving? Are they crying out for it? Or are there some going, what does this guy know? Or why is he selling out to this? He's got to know what the police officers go through. And if I want to be mad and angry, I'm going to be mad and angry. Like, how are you finding that overall embrace for what you're doing? Because there's such a huge need for this, huge need for it.
When you do stuff like when you do trainings like I do, and I spend a lot of time with new police officers because I believe they are the future, and they're the ones that are going to help change the narrative about us. When I put these videos out on social media, my inbox gets filled,
Okay.
and it's people who really push out the pro police videos, but I'm a real person and I know how emotions work as law enforcement. You could put up the biggest front that you ever want, but at the end of the day, when you're alone and it's just you, the Lord, and your thoughts, you feel exactly what I'm saying in these videos,
Hmm.
right? When you're in the classroom, the very first time I did the ear model, and it was a baby version of the ear model. It was only a 20-minute speech. The room was so silent when I got done. But
Yeah.
then it was text message. It was text message. Hey, that was a really solid, presentation that you did. I really never thought about it the way that you framed it. I really appreciate it. It makes me think. That's the response I get behind closed doors. I know
Hmm.
this thing works because the response to it tells me that it works. Um,
Yeah.
the connection that I'm able to build with people over the course of time tells me that it works. I field phone calls from police officers who are going through different things. I tell people all the time, at this point, there probably isn't anything you can tell me that's going to surprise me because I've heard so much from men and women who share the personal information because there's a level of trust with me because I am that kind of person. Again, I love people. I want to see people be well mentally, emotionally, physically, because as law enforcement, we are the standard bearers for society, and we should
Hmm.
be. But we have to be right upstairs, and we really have to push the envelope to have the trainings like my own come to the forefront as opposed to some of the other trainings that we go to. Uh, I'm the first to tell you, I don't care about how many people you've arrested, the type of arrest that you've made, or what type of success you've had as a police officer on the job. Tell me about your home life. Tell me about your relationship with your wife or your husband. Tell me how your kids are doing. How much are you drinking? Are you gambling? Are you abusing pornography? Is everything good at home? That's what I care about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can see this, and I may be wrong with this, right? I can see new recruits coming in and just eating this like right out of your hands.
Yep.
But now, what do you do? What control measures do you put in place so where over time goes on, that cynical mindset doesn't build up, where the message that you told them a month ago, a year ago, 5 years ago doesn't get lost. And then for the old hardened vet that's seen it all, done it all, what gets them to go, I'm open to this change and building this into my, skill set?
It's beautiful, Dave. It really is. With the new police officers inside the ear model, the rage component speaks directly to what you previously mentioned. It's being able to identify those police officers that you will encounter who have the sole purpose of creating what I like to refer to as more Eddie Brock type police officers. Eddie Brock being the superhero that Venom lives inside of.
Okay.
When you get to the level of being an Eddie Brock type police officer, that venom, the uniform, has completely taken over you and everything is negative. It's the schedule, the supervision, the leadership, the public, the report writing, the system
Yeah.
that you have to use, the cars that you drive, the firearms, the people. These people go out, these type of Eddie Brock type police officers go out and interact with the public in a negative way. And back at home, at the station, they want to make other police officers like them. I teach police officers, new police officers, not to engage in that way. Not and it's I give them a blueprint. the things you need to focus on to be a better police officer is on our challenge chart inside of the program. When you idle hands are the devil's playground.
Hmm.
When you have nothing to focus on, then you're more susceptible to be drawn into this type of negativity. But if you're showing up every day, working on the things that you need to personally to be better, and then coming to work and picking something off that challenge chart and focusing on that and gnawing on that for the day or the week, you don't have time for it. When you hear
Yeah.
those conversations, stand up for yourself. Nah, I don't believe that. Now,
Yeah.
as it relates to the older police officers, it's after they have done it all and seen it all, and now they're on the precipice of a divorce, or they've been divorced twice, or they've got crippling child support, or they're struggling with sobriety, that when they hear me talk about different things that speak directly to their heart, the Lord lays it right on their heart, and they're like, man, where was this 10, 15 years ago? Even though they didn't want it 10, 15 years ago, even though they thought it was soft, they thought it was weak training. They have grandkids now. They want to be more human. Their
Hmm.
kids stop hanging around them because they've been a police officer at home for so long. They've lost that connection sometimes with their children, with their other family members. They want to gain it back. They have to do the work. They have to do it the hard way and rebuilding those relationships. But it starts with actually hearing someone who speaks the law enforcement language, who's passionate about it, actually say it out loud and be bold with it.
Yeah. For the new ones, they have to consciously make a choice. They
Yes.
have to know and they have to keep that in front of them every
Yes.
single day
Yes.
to make that decision. And they have to have a lot of self-awareness to reflect and check themselves. One, because things aren't always going to go perfect. They're human. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to let their emotional intelligence go. They're going to lose their cool. They're going to hit that rage.
Yep.
But it's
It's
a matter of self-reflecting and calling
inside of the
yourself back to
program.
reality.
Inside of the program, I am as transparent about myself and my struggles, which I also put in my book as well. I'm extremely transparent so that they have examples, a point of reference, so to speak, that it's you're going listen, you're going to make mistakes. What comes from the arrogance part of, or the ego rather, is that I find police officers dying on hills that they don't have to in an effort
Hmm.
to just be right.
Yeah, that's a
And so
huge thing.
we watch these videos and we go, man, that's wrong. And it's cringy to even watch this police officer
Yeah,
continue to drive to try to drive this point home. And it's like it's okay to say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that. Or
yep,
let me step away, let me make a phone call and find out an answer to that. Uh,
yeah.
as it relates
Society
to
expects you though to know everything, right? You're expected like, here's your book this thick. You better have had it memorized in your during your recruit training, during your academy, wherever you're at. And I think the you just talked about police officers who go home and things are out of balance and in check,
Mhm.
right? And the problem there that's tough is like we as police officers go and say, okay, I'm home in my personal life. I can't let anybody else in and see who I really am in this
Right.
as this person. Somehow, though, the public finds out, and then they hold you to this. I mean, and I'm not saying that police officers shouldn't be held to a higher standard, but we're humans. They are humans, and they're going to screw up. They're going to make mistakes, right?
Mhm.
Especially, and I tell anybody, right? If you think that you could do this job better,
Come
sign
on.
up and go
Come
do it,
on. Come on.
right? But until you've lived it and experienced it, like you have to cut some of these guys some slack too, and say they are human. And if I experienced what they experienced, what would I do? But we also then intentionally need to be able to go and say, I need to ask for help. And it's okay. I don't have to take on this battle myself or feel this way. And that takes a level of self awareness too.
I'll put it on us. I'll lay it at our feet as law enforcement in that we have really driven the wedge between us and society as it relates to people seeing us as humans. And a big part of that has been the introduction of proactive policing. I've always been a anti-proponent of it because I'm focused on the human element.
Mm-hmm.
When you start to police based off of statistics and numbers and how many people you can arrest and how many citations that you can generate, what you do is you remove the human element from the interaction because it's a numbers game. It's like, okay, I want to go out and I want to write 10 tickets today. That means I got this little bit of time in between calls. I gotta turn and burn on these tickets. I don't have time to
Mm-hmm.
stop and listen to the story. Hey, I know you may be down on your luck. That's okay. Here, take two. I gotta go. I gotta get another car. Or when you arrest people for petty things, well, I need a drug arrest this month, or I need a drug arrest this week. So here's this paraphernalia. Uh, any other day I wouldn't do it, but today I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
We did that. That's us. And there,
Yeah.
especially here in this country, United States, there was funding for drugs back during the war on drugs era that really started this. That's when it really started. There used to be a time where police officers were a part of the community, where they lived there, they worked there. If someone had an issue, we were there to try to help them resolve it or get them the help they need. Younger kids, we would take them home, have a conversation with their parents, let them know, hey, this is a, hey, we do this one time, but next time the consequences are going to be different. We don't do that anymore. And I know
Mm-hmm.
people want to get back to it, but in a lot of areas where it's needed, police officers aren't safe to live there.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the challenges is that the areas that are stricken with poverty, they're not safe for law enforcement to live because of different narratives that are pushed. But it is us. I am the first one to say it is us. I don't blame society because we didn't evolve with society as well.
Mm-hmm.
When society was saying they wanted a different type of police officer back in the 60s, where de-escalation really kind of first was born, we dug our heels in. And then in the 90s and the early 2000s, what really galvanized us in this country was 9/11. There was a huge love for law enforcement, and we took advantage of that. And we policed people harder, and we had this public on our side. But then when the media started to expose different situations where a police officer was wrong and there was no accountability had either by that officer or by that department, that started to rub people the wrong way. We eroded away at the trust that society has in us because we acted as if we were not a part of society, right? Like
Yeah.
we were police officers 24 hours a day. No, you're a police officer while you're getting paid, but you're Dave, the baseball coach. Your RC, the math teacher
Mm-hmm.
or your RC, the parent who has the kids over. That's who you are. That's how you have to be. And you have to bring that with you. We stopped bringing that with us to work. We just brought paramilitary and proactive policing. And that's what made society really start to, kind of look at us in a different light. Like, hey, these guys, these girls aren't treating us like human beings. So we're not going to treat them like human beings.
Mm-hmm. How much of that starts at the administrative level, where they're demanding numbers, stats, right? They're responsible to police boards or mayor's offices, communities, and saying, "Where's the stats? Where's the numbers?" And rather than saying,
Absolutely.
"Where's the really good, solid interactions?" Right? Rather than 10 tickets, where's the two, but you had a great interaction with somebody. You
Right.
understood them, you heard them,
Yep.
right?
That. Capitalism, it revolves around money. Law enforcement, politics should have never gotten in bed together, but they
Mm-hmm.
did. It started, it's above where you and I are. And I understand because I spend a lot of time with administration as well, leadership. What happens is people get into these administrative roles, these leadership roles, and they're not there to rock the boat because in a lot of places, in order to attain these levels of leadership, you have to be well liked by the people above you,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't know too many departments that have a test higher than maybe two steps. To get to
Mm-hmm.
that third or fourth step, it is, in a reference to the Italian mafia, it's almost like being made, right? They gotta like you, they gotta like what you've done, and a part of being in that role is understanding that, hey, you're not going to try to make waves here. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
come here and do what we've been doing because this is what helps us the most as administration, as leadership.
Yeah.
So that's a huge part of it. I'm sure you're familiar with. That's a huge part of it. The driving of the numbers, people who are trying to get to those levels, again, it goes back to stats being the end all be all of how good of a police officer or a supervisor you are. Do your guys and girls work for you? Let's see, do they? Would you be would
Oh, th-
would you be good for the next position? Since let's see. And when people are driving statistics, there's a lot of necks getting stepped on and people getting walked over and walked on in an effort to achieve a personal goal. And that's not the way it should be.
oh,
That's not the way it
it's
should be.
it's unbelievable the friendships or relationships that get burned or
Yes.
how the people get used and abused just to get up to like I'm going to climb that ladder. I don't care
Yes.
how it's going to get me there.
Yes.
And I've seen it. As soon as you people get discarded, as soon as you've helped me get to here, you're out the window. I'm sorry, I'm going on to the next. It's
Yes.
so cutthroat. It's amazing. And I know that happens in corporate America everywhere, right? It does. But it just, I don't know, there's a prevalence to it, it seems like in that career.
In corporate America, it's different in that you don't have the direct impact on society as a police officer does,
Mm-hmm.
right? We are, as first responders, we have a direct line to people that others just simply don't have. If you work in an office or you're behind the scenes, like you're not us. What we get called to people. There's very few industries where you actually get called to go talk to people in that way. And when you've had a group of men and women in patrol who have worked hard and their supervisor just uses their hard work to get to the next level and then turns around and like, nope, I got a new group of friends up here. You guys are no longer my friends. I'm no longer hearing what you say or what you need. It's about me and what these guys want over here. Oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
detrimental to police departments, and it's been detrimental to our industry in ways that I don't even know can be quantified. Those surveys of malcontent and disgruntlement, they would break servers because there'd be so many of them. The responses would just be off the charts.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, we've talked about the past of policing. We've talked
Yep.
about what we're seeing now. Um, where do you see the future going?
David, I'll be honest with you. This is the stuff that keeps me up at night because I'm only 10 years in and I want to have a very long career in law enforcement as humanly possible. But the direction in which we are going, it's going to take a massive shift in mindset with
Mm-hmm.
intentionality to be better in the areas which are important, which are advancements in technology, the use of technology, emotional intelligence, the presence of mental health support, and the understanding, a better education for police officers on the different levels of society. That's
Mm-hmm.
what it's going to take, in my opinion, for us to move forward. Because right now, what we're faced with is this, and this is the analogy that I use visually. It's a bucket with a hole in the bottom, and there's a spigot, a faucet over top of it, but the faucet's only dripping, but the hole in the bottom is huge. And as more people leave and less people come in, we're getting to the point now where, and it's happening all around the country that I'm in, the United States, we're running razor thin shift after shift, and we're breaking people that are coming into the industry now, and nobody really wants to do it because who really wants to sign up for burnout? Who wants to sign up for 50, 60 hours a week? And a lot of places they don't make a lot of money with the American public or with society in general, wherever you are, society's view of us and how they interact with us. It's
Yeah,
it's scary, it's dangerous to be a police officer and try to understand people when sometimes they've already got their mind made up about you, right? And they're putting you in situations where you're supposed to make the right decision in a second or less than a second. And if you don't, you get crucified. It's
big
tough.
time.
It's
Big
tough.
time.
The
And
future
knowing
of
too,
law
sometimes that
enforcement.
your administrators are going to be there to hang you out to dry too. Sometimes, not always, right? They are there sometimes to have your back too. But it's like the I can say all this stuff now because I've left that world. But I
Right.
mean, there's some out there that will just hang you out to dry, and they armchair quarterback decisions you made. They forget what it's like to be there and to make those decisions. It's like there's man, it's wild, right? Sometimes that lack of support. And, sometimes I look at this too, and you talked about the mental health. If a police officer is involved in something or police officer gets hurt on duty, there's a lineup of people there to make sure you're doing okay. Heal up, get back to
Mm.
work. We love you. We miss you, right?
Yep.
God, what you did was such a brave thing. Police officer goes off on mental health. It's crickets.
Yep.
There's not the phone calls. There's not the support. There's not the what can we do to make you better? Man, what you did out there must have been really tough. You must be hurting. How can we make this better for you? You're left alone a lot of the
It's the
times.
it's the it's the old way of thinking in that we the old way of thinking is you just shut up, you just suck it up, and you just deal with it. You don't talk about your issues, and if you do, then you're weak. And who wants to be associated with weakness in a sense, right?
Hmm.
Right? This is what we've always done, but we see it. It's so funny because we see it in law enforcement, but we also see it in the military. In that, hey, you sign up for service, you go to war, or you get deployed, or whatever the case may be, and then when you're out, it's like, here's your plaque, here's your mug, here's your certificate. All right, there's the door.
Yeah.
And to get back to what you said, and well, it's what I said earlier, in that it's the challenge of being seen without having to perform. I deal with
Hmm.
this a lot with my retired police officers who I'm constantly in contact with, and that when you retire, the people that you were just working with the day before, the administrators you were just working with the day before, the court personnel that you were just working with, that you had a relationship 15, 20, 30 years, guess what? They're all gone. And
Hmm.
you're not welcome to show back up to hang out in the patrol room or give your opinion. No, you're in the way. Like, you did your time, it's time for you to go. That's a big part of it as well, is that there's no second level of embracement for those who have retired. There's no special group for those who are struggling with mental health, or rather an acceptance of.
Yeah.
And I think that starts really at the top with administration, because that's a slippery slope. You're going to
Hmm.
open that can of worms as a department. You're going to find that it's more people than you imagine, because a lot of times what happens is that we just one off police officers who get arrested or have mental health issues. It's like, oh no, it's just that one person. No, in reality, it's probably almost the entire patrol roster or the entire department. It's just that they're coping with it differently. They haven't got to their breaking point, and administration is hoping that they can get retired before they have to deal with it while they're still working. That's the honest to God truth about it. We try to one off
Hmm.
guys and girls as if they were just an issue themselves. No, this industry will eat you alive.
Yeah.
You don't
Well,
have to
and
have to
when you
work.
just said there with people going off, and you're not welcome back, and it's like you're immediately shut out. It's like all the
Yes,
things you used to know, all the things people used to tell you. It's like we can't trust you anymore. You're not one of us anymore.
right.
And
What
I
do you
think
know?
that lends to why it's so important that police officers always maintain their own personal self-identity while they are police officers, because one day it's going to be gone from you. One day you turn in your badge and your gun, whether it's by your choice or not. But that identity is gone, and you can't, you can take the lessons, you can take the experiences, you can use it for so many other ways in your life. But you got to identify with who you are as a person first and foremost, and that has to happen throughout the years of your career, always.
That is one of the primary premises inside of the EAR model, is that you must learn from the very beginning to not wear that uniform all the time. Inside the EAR model, we use Clark Kent, Superman. We use Tony Stark, Iron Man, and then obviously I had already referenced Eddie Brock and Venom.
Yeah.
When you get to the point of your Tony Stark era of law enforcement, where you feel like you've got an understanding, excuse me, understanding of everything, for the most part, you're familiar with your calls. That's the arrogant part of law enforcement, where you're not listening, you're an unwilling student. But like Iron Man, like Tony Stark, he wore the uniform so much that later on down the line, we found out that the arc reactor that was powering the Iron Man suit was actually killing him. That's what
Yeah.
ends up happening when you wear the uniform all the time. It
Spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't seen Iron Man.
Right, right. It starts to kill you,
Yeah.
and that I teach that to new police officers. That's one of the things that I try to drive home the furthest, is that you have to take this uniform off, because, like
Hmm.
you said, and it transcends other industries as well. Either by your choice or by their choice or by the Lord's choice, you are not going to be doing this thing forever. And you
Yeah.
need to have systems in place, processes in place to help you try to fill this massive void that has been in your life 20, 25, 30 years. You've been a cop 30 years, and then now all of a sudden you're done. You just don't, most people usually just don't retire and then, okay, like I got a great thing set up. No, a lot of men and women struggle with what now?
Hmm.
As much as I maybe hated going to work, I don't have to go to work. And I work with retired police officers in this way as well because yes. Oh, I got to build a deck. We're going to put a new bathroom in. Okay, that's all fine and well. That's 2 months. We're talking about potentially another 20, 30 years of you being not a police officer, which is why we
Yeah.
see retired people go back into law enforcement for a second time because they don't have anything to fill that void. They didn't take the steps when they were working because they dedicated so much time, effort, and energy to being a police officer, even to the detriment of their own personal lives.
Yeah. I think we all have a creative genius in us.
Yes.
And I know, like when certain guys, when you're girls, when you're off on your days off, you need some downtime there.
Hmm.
But you have creativity in you too. And I really always found it helpful for me. I've always been into business as well, all along my years of being a cop. And putting that creativity to work really helped me post career after I left after about 15 years to go,
Yep.
what am I going to do now? How am I going to use these skill sets that I have acquired and use them to serve other people? Like, and you have to have a purpose. As
Yes.
human beings, we all have to have a purpose. And
Yes.
you have to be able to find and identify what that purpose is. I don't care if it's cutting grass at your local golf course, right? And
You're right.
interacting with people and remembering that 99% of society is good. A
Yes.
lot of good
Yes.
people out there.
Yeah,
And don't
absolutely.
forget that, right? And transition yourself and get involved. But like, just even if you don't have any intention of getting into a business or doing anything when you're a cop or after, have fun with your creativity. Journal it out. Write down your ideas because you never know when you're going to stumble upon something that goes, that's gold. I got to do something with this.
That's
And you don't have to know how to do it either.
no,
You'll figure it out.
that's the beauty of it. In starting the Hughes Initiative, I started it from ground zero, and there was a lot that had to be learned. It was how to research, what to research, what resonated with people, but also separately, it was audio, video,
Yeah.
public speaking, all of these things that I had to learn on my own that really like filled the time when I was off. Now, I'm a glutton for punishment in that I'm a police officer and I'm also a public resource and a police educator as well. So I spend a lot of time with this stuff. But as a family, what we'd like to do is we'd like to take it at least one cruise a year.
Hmm.
And for that, 5, 7 days, I take the phone, I just put it down, it's off. And then I'm able to not forget about, but just like let it all go. Because throughout the course of the year, there's so many things happening, so many things that have to be responded to, so many classes and new people that have to be educated. I take that cruise, I set it down, and I want to do this after a career in law enforcement, but at the same time, I want to get into something different. I won't give it away, but I want to get into something different as well, um, that is completely separate from
Hmm.
this, right? Something that's going to challenge me from the ground up, that I'm going
Yeah.
to have to start over and spend that time when I have the free time to do. That's what we have to do as police officers. We have to find something else that is challenging for us.
I love it. I love it. All right, RC. This could go on forever.
Yes, of course.
Maybe a part two in the books here for
Absolutely.
us. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm on all social media. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. The Hughes Initiative is what you would search for. You can find me on my website, www.hi-teaches.com. That's where you can schedule the classes. That's where you can buy the book, Dominate Your First Year as a Cop, or find more information about the Citizens Police Education Program as well.
Awesome. Awesome, brother. Well, thank you for being here.
Cool.
You're a conversationalist. You are so well-rounded, educated, and the work that you're doing for the police officers of the past, the present, and the future.
Yes.
Thank you. For those who are listening, if you're in law enforcement, if you know somebody who works in law enforcement, loved one, friend, brother, sister, husband, wife, whatever it may be, remember that we all do wear trauma on the sleeve
Yes, we
and
do.
that we are humans. Um, we have to have emotional intelligence. We have to work. If you're somebody that's working in law enforcement, you're struggling. There's people out there that can help you. It doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to live that way. Mental health in law enforcement, all first responders, is something I'm hugely passionate about, and making sure that people can live purposeful, meaningful lives. So thank you for those listening. If you learned something today, please share this podcast. Please tell somebody about it. Drop us some comments in the below what you think about it. This has been another episode of Shield Vulnerable, Untold Stories. Thanks, RC, for being here.
Thank you, Dave, for having me.